Okay, we've got a good sized audience and we are ready to start today's Sustainability Essentials webinar. I am Susan Ingalls and I am delighted to welcome you all who are in the audience and our panelists. Today we are going to be talking about light with three Sustainable Furnishings Council members, Pam Bailey of Currey and Company, Shay Elder of Eangee, and Randall Whitehead. And to start, I am going to give you a couple of logistical points. Even though we have you all on mute, we do want to hear from you. So send in your questions and comments using the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. And at the end of our discussion, we'll turn to your questions and comments and make sure we address all of them. Now, I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about our organization because I see some of you are new to us. Sustainable Furnishings Council is a membership organization, and our members are companies that are involved in residential furnishings in various ways. So supplying materials, manufacturing all manner of furnishings products, lighting products, and others, and stores where these things are sold, and interior designers are members. Of our almost 400 member companies has made their own public and verifiable commitment to sustainability, whatever that means to them. And they have made a commitment to transparency and to continuous improvement. And we, as an organization, help our member companies and others in the industry realize their commitment to sustaining a healthy future. We do that with guidance that we provide, with networking opportunities, with resources that we love to hand out, with lots of educational programming. This is part of a monthly webinar series, and we also have a certificate course called Green Leaders, which is worth 6 CEUs with for LEED accredited professionals and for all interior designers in licensing states and that are part of design societies. So so that is, if you're interested in the kind of things that we're talking about today, I invite you to get further involved with us by taking Green Leaders to learn more, by joining, which would give you the right to use the member seal in all your marketing and advertising. And at this point, what I want to do is hand it over to Diane Falvey, who is the editor-in-chief at Furniture, Lighting, and Decor, which we are so pleased is the media sponsor for today's event. So Diane, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Susan, for inviting us. We're so excited to be part of this program. As many of you may know, and some of you may not, Furniture, Lighting, and Decor is a monthly print and digital trade publication that focuses on sharing the tools, the insights, and the trends that are important to home furnishings, retail, and interior design businesses. We have a focus on, in case you can't tell by the title, furniture, lighting, and home decor. For more information on our brand or to subscribe to the magazine, which again is monthly, you can visit FurnitureLightingDecor.com. And we'd really like to thank you for including us again in this discussion, because lighting is so important, and this I think will be a really engaging and exciting conversation. So as you mentioned, again, this is about lighting, and lighting is so innovative right now. There's so much going on in this category beyond what's going on in some of the other categories in the home furnishings industry, beyond its impact on our health and our well-being, because light is so important in the home. Advances in lighting technology and manufacture also have a profound impact on our environment. I am not the expert here, but we are here today with 3 expert panelists to discuss this topic in depth, and I think it's going to be really amazing. I'd like to welcome Currey & Company's Pam Bailey, Eangee's Shay Elder and the lighting Dr. Randall Whitehead. Susan, I'm going to turn it back over to you so that you can let our panelists tell us a little bit more about themselves. And again, thank you so much for including us.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you. And I too thank the panelists all for being here to talk about your corporate commitment to sustainability and the many ways that I know you all bring light into the world. Here we are in the Hanukkah season and soon after Diwali and surrounded by colorful Christmas lights. Light is an important topic as we are approaching the shortest day of the year. Darkness can overwhelm us, just as trying to reduce environmental footprint and all the pollution that we have some connection to can numb us to meaningful action. But each of y'all has a significant corporate commitment to sustainability. So I want to invite you now to further introduce yourself and your company and tell us what you're prioritizing on the sustainability front. So we're going to start with you, Pam.
Okay. Great. Hi, Susan. Thank you so much. You know, at Currey, we have, been a member of the Sustainable Furnishings Council for, I think, 10 years now. I think we're closing down on 11. And we understand and are committed to the impact that every action and decision we make and how it impacts our environment and how our products can affect the health of our planet and the future of our community. As an organization, we have raised awareness in environmentally sustainable practices across the industry. We're proud to partner and sponsor events yearly with you, Susan, and we encourage our colleagues in the industry to do the same. Our design team, whom I'm specifically involved with as a director of lighting, they are ever observant to the commitment, to this commitment, and they really embrace the use of sustainable and recycled materials in their designs. It is something that inspires them. When when we walk through a factory and see a shank of discarded rope on the floor, somebody picks it up and it becomes a fun new Samoa chandelier for us. It is just, it's a constant part of their design process. So when we sit down and we go through our initial phases of launching a new season, we look at the concepts on the table, and then we then say, first of all, it has to be safe for our customers. It's light, it's electric, and it's going in people's homes. So first of all, it has to be safe. But equally important is design and materials. And at that point, we look at what does this design support? And we are making an active effort to incorporate more LED into our design to save energy and conservation, as well as sustainable materials or recycled materials. Some of those materials we use are recycled glass, reclaimed wood from flooring that we've found in the Philippines, mahogany wood flooring, which we've also incorporated into some of our showroom floors, shells, and naturally sourced native woods. We also embrace many cottage industries within the countries that we choose to work in, and who work with, especially with the abaca rope and weaving that rope and going into the hills, or if in Vietnam, we're sourcing water hyacinth, which is helpful in clearing clogs in the waterways there. So we really embrace that every step of the way. In our warehouse, we also incorporate. I have to have my notes because I always forget what we call a 5S tour. And our 5S tour is, the 5S's stand for sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. And the sustain part is really about recycling our packaging materials. And also we actively recycle some of our chemicals with an organization in Atlanta that that is more of a casual partnership that some of our associates felt passionate about. And they, take paint cans and bring them there and drop them off where they can be responsibly disposed of.
Cool. I'm gonna have more questions for you, Pam.
Okay.
But that is a great overview. Thank you. And with that, I want to turn to Shay to tell us about Eangee and the story of your company.
Absolutely, and thank you for inviting us to participate in this. We're definitely excited to do so. I'm one of the founding members of Eangee Home Design. We started in 2003, so we just celebrated our 17th year in October, and we are proud to be one of the founding members of the SFC.
Yes.
2007. So
yeah,
it doesn't seem possible, but here we are. As a company, we specialize in working with small artisan groups within the home furnishings industry. So we find people that do really interesting, creative work and are doing so in sustainable and in fair trade manners. And then we help them grow, we grow with them, and then we bring them to market here in the United States, North America. In terms of our focus, there are two big areas, sustainability, and then the fair trade side is also very important to us. From the sustainable side, we look a lot at the materials that we use, and we're constantly amazed at the number of really incredible natural materials that are discarded or unused or widely available that turn into really incredible home decor products. We use a lot of leaves, we use recycled papers, just basically anything that we can find that is usable, we try to do. Beyond just the materials, then we also look at the dyes that we're using. We want to make sure that we're using adhesives that are low impact, non-toxic. So it's materials, it's the way that the product is put together. And then packaging also becomes an important part of this because there is so much packaging that goes into making sure that a piece goes from the Philippines where we're producing to our warehouse and then on to the store, the consumer that is purchasing the product. So we look at how do we package something so that it arrives safely, but how do we use a reasonable amount that will do the job without over packaging. And so we look at ways to package in the Philippines that will work in our warehouse and that we can also then ship from our warehouse to the end consumer. So we're consuming a lot less packaging. Where we are working with a product that is going to have to be repackaged, we have created cooperative efforts with a number of other local green businesses within our town, and we will reuse packaging that they have. So cornstarch peanuts, things like that a couple of green grocery stores will get very large amounts of, and we'll pick that up from them, and then we can reuse that within our own shipping. So we're using green material, and we're also reusing green material to give that second life. So cool. A lot of those efforts as well, and so that's where we really focus in on sustainability.
Great. Thank you, Shay. And Randall, now please tell us about yourself and about your work. You too have been involved with us for years, 10-ish or so.
I have. Unlike the manufacturers, I'm a specifier. And so I am looking at how the manufacturers are handling sustainability. Really, that my focus is on humanizing light and using LEDs in homes and gardens successfully, and educating the public, and that includes interior designers, contractors, landscape designers, and architects, on how to choose the right LED for what it is that you're doing. What I like about LEDs, they don't have any mercury in them like fluorescents do, so it's much better for the environment. They don't need to be recycled, that they break down. They don't have, but you can also recycle them if you like. But in California, we require the manufacturers to include an energy efficient LED bulb with their fixtures. So I want to make sure that the manufacturers pick one that's kind of delightful and has a beautiful color to it, so that when people turn it on, they go, oh, this is great, instead of saying, oh, I got to get rid of this and I got to go out and get me an incandescent bulb or fluorescent bulb. So that's my job, is to tell people how delicious LED lighting can be and how well it works with the sustainable community.
Cool. And it sure does. And we're going to come back to talk more about LEDs specifically. But what I want to turn to now is something you have all touched on, and that is the fact that sustainability has many facets. Sustainability is complex. There are a lot of different aspects to this broad area. And so each of you has described some of how you are focusing. What we've done here at Sustainable Furnishings Council is recently decided that we're going to talk about 6 different sort of segments of sustainability. And those, I'll just run through them, include reducing CO2 emissions, promoting health and wellness, reducing waste, ensuring social equity, managing water, and incorporating circularity. And I've heard a lot of that going on in what y'all have talked about so far. And you've all mentioned about materials. Since over 80% of any consumer product's environmental footprint is in what it's made of, materials are crucially important. So I invite you, specifically Pam and Shay, to say anything else that you might want to about how materials drive your design choices. You both touched on that a little bit, but you might have something else to say there. And then Randall, I want you to talk about all the elements you consider when you are, actually we're going to start with you, Randall. We're going to start with you, all the elements you consider when you are choosing lighting in your lighting design practice. And that'll lead more smoothly, I think, to you, Pam, and you, Shay, to talk more about materials, okay?
Okay, sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Well, what I like to do is, as you see in the photo below there, I like to show people that LED lighting can be inviting. It can have the color quality of the incandescent light that we've all grown up with, and it is dimmable. It can be quiet, and you can have a very good amount of light coming out of it. One of the things that I try to explain is the language of light, which is, there's only 3 words in the language of light. It is color temperature, lumen output, and color rendering index. If people have these 3 terms in their mind, and it starts to come to them naturally, that when they are faced with a row of light bulbs, or when they're looking at fixture specifications from the different manufacturers, and they're talking about what the lumen output is, what the color temperature is, what the CRI is, that they will know what it is that they're buying. So what I want to talk about is that Lumen Output is the first one. We've got to get used to this term. We know what a 40-watt bulb, how much light it gives out. We know what a 75-watt bulb gives out, but you need to look at what the lumen output is. So a 75-watt bulb has a lumen output of 1100 watts. And so you need to think about looking at LED equivalents. What's nice is that an 1100 watt LED only takes 11 watts of power. So we're using so much less power when we're going over to LEDs. Now the early LEDs were greenish, they didn't dim, they were very dull in color and brightness. And I think that turned a lot of people off. What's happening now is that the light is so vibrant and lush and gorgeous that you don't have to worry about LEDs not being what it is that you want, but you need to understand the terms. So beyond lumens, you want to think about color temperature, and that is the color of the light. Incandescent light is 2700 degrees Kelvin, dimmed incandescent is 2400 degrees Kelvin, candlelight is 2200 degrees Kelvin, and daylight is 5000 degrees Kelvin. So interestingly enough, the higher the number, the cooler the light, the lower the number, the warmer the light. So in my own home and in my specifications, I use 2700K for all of the accent lighting. For all the decorative lighting, I really like to use 2400 degrees Kelvin. And a lot of the linear lighting that we're doing, like in cove lighting and shelf lighting, I will often go to either 2200 degrees Kelvin or 2400 degrees Kelvin. So it has that warm, rich color. And then that last magical ingredient is the CRI, the color rendering index. And it's on the boxes and it's in the specifications from the manufacturers. And you want to look at something that is 90 or higher. Incandescent light has a CRI of 100. So all these other alternative light sources are trying to get as close to 100 as possible. So I say you need to look at something that's 90 or higher. That you don't want something that's in the 80 or the 85. It's like the pop quiz that you got in elementary school or high school, and you want to get as close to 100 as possible, and a 90 or above was an A. 80 or above, well, 85 was a B, 80 was a C. Well, you don't want C lighting, you don't want B lighting, you want A lighting, okay? And so don't purchase something that is in the 75 or 80 CRI because it's going to be kind of dull, a little bit grayish, and because they last so long, it's like being in a bad relationship for a long time that you can't get out of. You've made the commitment. So start with a good relationship, start with 90 or higher. If you look at the picture that we're looking at right now, all of that is 2400 degrees Kelvin. Beautiful color. So that CRI is that little ingredient. It's the difference between Hershey's chocolate and Godiva chocolate. That's what we want. We want Godiva chocolate. We do not want Hershey's. No offense to Hershey's, but Godiva's better. I'm sorry. So that's what I'm looking at. And I'm really glad that the manufacturers are starting to put that information into their sheets of information, their tear sheets, their cut sheets. And they're really looking at it. And then also showing what dimmers work best with the system. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from. Is that enough information?
So useful, Randall, and that is such good framing for this conversation. You know, I said that let's talk about materials, and I'm thinking in terms of the impact of the material as it is made into a product, but the impact of the material and how the thing looks is so important too. So when y'all talk about materials a little bit, and let's start with you next, Pam, you might talk about how you told about one of your designers seeing a rope and making a lamp. Perhaps we have seen that lamp as we've gone through, but talk about how the materials make the light look in your eyes and in your designer's eyes.
Well, I think the materials are, you know, we always call lighting the accessory in the room. So they really, you know, when you look at a fixture or a lamp, it's got to tie in with the theme and the colors and the materials in the room. And, you know, I was sort of chuckling to myself when you started talking about this, because, you know, 2020 has been an interesting year in terms of the supply chain.
Yes.
And I'm sure Shay has, you know, felt this as well. And many times these, you know, natural materials that we incorporate come through a small artisan or cottage industry, you know, group of people. And, you know, those were some of the people that were hardest hit by COVID. And also, we both work in the Philippines too. We know that different regions were closed off to other regions. And so if somebody, you know, lived in Pampanga and the, you know, the abaca rope was being harvested outside of Pampanga, then, you know, there was difficulty getting a full workforce to harvest and create that abaca rope. And, you know, we saw that too with our recycled glass supplier as well. Now everybody's back, they're getting caught up, but, you know, that doesn't mean they too won't carry through a second wave.
Exactly.
You know, of the virus. So we just, you know, have to kind of plan carefully. So when we are also, you know, you talk about emotional health in sustainability and those practices. So, you know, we think of them too when we are, you know, just planning for 2021, and how can we balance our new introductions and address this trend, because this natural product and product that's made of natural materials is very popular right now. And so, you know, there's a high demand for it, and you definitely want to be able to fulfill, you know, what your customers want. But there's also a consideration that you have to make to your suppliers in keeping them not overwhelming them and keeping them functionally, you know, sound and steady. And so there's that. But also getting back to the materials, I think, you know, we in the past, you know, the industrial look is waning a little bit, but we've used vintage tin from old roofs of naval buildings, the Quonset huts in the Philippines. We use I've talked about blown and cast recycled glass, as you see in this photo right here. We do use concrete, which is used from crushed, you know, rock waste and items like that, as well as some recycled textiles in some of our accessories. So, you know, there's sort of that upcycled piece, and then there's, you know, the artisan piece with the ropes. So yes, walking through, you know, when we think about the carbon footprint, you know, when we all travel, that lighting fixture with the, you know, that was inspired by the discarded shank of rope would never have been realized if we hadn't traveled. So we have learned that we still need to travel, but we might not need to travel as often when the pandemic subsides. And we've learned how to do, we were talking about this before the call, we've learned how to, we feel much more comfortable on these calls now. And, you know, we are becoming better camera people and zooming in on details of a prototype and understanding. I was just talking to our VP of production yesterday or the day before, and typically after a product review, an assortment review, and selections for the next upcoming season, typically we have to sort of go back and rework, you know, maybe 20% of the items that we selected, change the color or make a small change to it, tweak it. And I said, all right, what was the, you know, what was the percent this time? Because we didn't get to see any of the product. We didn't travel before it arrived here to review. So he said the same. It's roughly the same. I was blown away. So, you know, I told the team, this time that we take in the evenings, because all of our calls with the Philippines have to happen in the evenings, you know, is well spent. And, you know, we're not traveling, we get to sleep in our own beds, but
Yeah.
time well spent and worth everybody's effort, because we, you know, we did not slip up too much. A couple of surprises came through, but, you know, something that just gets pushed to a later season.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, Pam. And Shay, I bet you, as Pam said, since you're working in that same part of the world, I bet you have had lessons from this era, but also have comments about how the materials you've chosen or have been your choice in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So we really, again, focus in on the natural materials, and there's an abundance of really interesting agricultural byproduct that is available in and around the areas that we work. And so we work with a lot of leaves from plantations. So we can take leaves from an agricultural tree or plant or that type of thing and sustainably harvest them. It provides farmers with income because we're paying them to go out and harvest leaves at a time when they might not be able to harvest their crop. It may be out of season for the crop, but then they still have access to the leaves. And so it creates these really interesting and unique, very beneficial partnerships that give us access to an abundance of material that we can use in very sustainable manners and ways. As Pam has said, the pandemic has definitely created a few hiccups. Parts of the Philippines are closed off from other parts of the Philippines and have been at various times. And when a major source for one of our materials is in a region that we can't get to, then we kind of have to call some audibles, change some plans, look at alternate material sources, diversify. So it really has created an interesting year, I'll say that. The good news is that things in the Philippines have been a little bit better. And so we've gotten access again to a lot of the areas that we didn't have. And so at the moment, things are looking pretty good. We're still playing catch up because I think it was about a 2-month period where production was just completely shut down. But things are going better now.
Yeah. And yeah, there's been so much to juggle this year, so much to juggle. I imagine that in all cases, you've had to use imagination to do more locally, so not traveling between regions, and to do more from where we are at home, so where you're from your own home offices in the warehouse, probably.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Randall, one of the pictures we have gone by a couple of times here is of a cover of a book that you have written. It is not your first. I'd like you to tell us about the kind of advice you have, not only for industry professionals like those who are on this webinar, but also for the end consumer in lighting, because I think that's who's going to be reading your book, right? Of course, we might all go buy it for ourselves too.
Well, it's written, it was written as a textbook for people that are starting in the design industry. Okay. So people that will be interior designers or architects or landscape designers or lighting designers for that matter. This is a really good, easy to read way of getting to understand how lighting works in a design. It is also written so that motivated homeowners will be able to read it and use the information. But I really see it as a great reference guide for people in the industry, not only designers, but also manufacturers, so they can look at how their product is being used in the environment. And I love decorative lighting. I think it's the architectural jewelry that we need. And I think without it, you don't have the draw. They're sort of like the star of the space. They pull you in. The entryway foyer light, for example, sort of sets the scene for the rest. The fixture that's over the dining room table, very important to draw people in and start that conversation. These are the things that I want the book to do. So I'm really excited about it. It's supposed to come out at the end of February, the beginning of March. It's called Beautiful Light. And that's exactly how I feel it is. And it really does deal with LEDs, and all of the pictures that we've been scrolling through of these interiors, every one of them shows 100% LED lighting, but in different color temperatures, so that people will be surprised at how beautiful LED lighting can be, and the glow that comes through the shades that both Pam's company and Shay's company create. We want the light to be one of those sustainable sources, and they're going to work in beautiful concert together. That's what we want.
Yeah, yeah. And tell us a little bit, if you would, if you can, because now that I know it's a textbook, I bet it's got this kind of technical stuff in it, perhaps.
Absolutely.
LEDs save a large percentage of energy use, and that is not only in how much energy it takes to run the bulb, but also how much energy is being lost outside the bulb, and so heating the room.
That's right. Incandescent light, 80% of the energy that's absorbed turns into heat, not into light. And it's opposite for LEDs. 80% of the power that they take is light, and only 20% is heat. There is a fallacy that LEDs don't get warm at all. Well, they do get warm, but you can have a bulb that's been on for hours, and you can still touch it and unscrew it, whereas a regular incandescent bulb, you would be basically branded for life. So we don't want to do that.
No.
So that's where it's coming from. And also maintenance. That a regular household bulb lasts 750 hours. And it seems like a lot, but LED bulbs are lasting 25,000 hours.
Wow.
So when you've got recessed fixtures that are 10 feet in the air, and you don't want to get on a ladder, you don't really have to think about them for about 17 years, which is great. In the hospitality, both these companies are supplying to hotels, restaurants, that the idea that they don't have to get up on those chandeliers or change the bulbs in the guest rooms, things like that on a constant basis, that saves a lot of money and energy as well. So that is also a sort of a hidden advantage to LEDs that I like to let people know about.
Yeah, that is significant, and it's significant in stores too. That you know, a furniture store has lights all over the place, and if they're LEDs, they don't have to be changing those bulbs as often.
Right.
I have more questions for you, but I see we've got questions coming in, so I want to turn to those. And here is the first one. There is a lot of conversation around iLED and its sustainability messaging. Though it saves energy, iLED components have a lifespan of roughly 15 years, meaning it's obsolete and of no use. Has this been discussed? And if so, what are your thoughts on how to truly make iLED sustainable? I have to confess, this is the first I've ever heard of iLED, but I bet you can enlighten us, Randall.
It's the first time I'm hearing about it too.
Are they integrated LED?
Integrated LED.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
That's what it is. Thank you, Pam. That's great. That's great. Good.
Yep.
So integrated LED.
Well, that's very funny, because this is what we were talking about before. We had a sort of a pre-meeting, and the difference between an LED bulb that you can screw into a fixture, and if it burns out or you want to change the color or the lumen output, you can just exchange that bulb. and the idea of integrating LED components into a fixture. And for me, I am an advocate of being able to change my own light bulbs instead of having to send in a component to have it repaired or replaced and sent back to me. I want to be able to go to the hardware store or the big box store or order online and get something overnight and have it in my hands, and then I can change that bulb. So if that's what they're talking about, I am on the side of non-integrated LEDs. Now, of course, there are linear LED lights that are integrated LEDs, and I am absolutely fine with using those. And at the end of their life, you will replace them, but it is a pretty long time that that's going to be happening. But for the decorative fixtures, even for the recessed fixtures, I am way into just having the ability to change the bulb to get what it is that I want in a very immediate way. Hopefully that answers their question.
I think it sounds to me like it should. And Pam, one of the things that you talked about in that previous conversation too was the commitment that Currey made to using all LED bulbs when you sent light. I mean, you have to do it in California, but y'all do it everywhere, I believe. And I bet you do too, Shay.
We do it in those fixtures that do require LED bulbs. Just to follow up on what Randall was saying, when we're looking at an LED design, and there has been great conversation lately around the design table and with our engineers about designing to that small percentage that fails. And how can we help the customer if we have to switch out a component? And in some cases, it's, you sort of throw up your hand. You have these moments where you throw up your hands and it's like, well, why? That's only going to be a tiny percent. But Currey is so committed to customer service and to, not have to, cause the inconvenience of having somebody replace an entire fixture. So we are working, especially the flush mounts and the things that incorporate LED light pucks. We are designing to have those be easily replaceable, even if it is 10 years later or 15 years later. So we're working on that very earnestly at the moment, because some designs just dictate it. You can't use a bulb, as Randall said, in every single design. And you get, often with a flush mount, you get those, sort of burn marks of the bulb, and the LED pucks really help spread that light more evenly within the fixture.
Yeah. And Shay, did you want to add something on that general theme?
Yeah, we did for a period of time offer a series of lamps that had integrated LEDs, and we found that it almost created a certain level of anxiety within consumers that there was going to be some sort of challenge at some point, either replacing a component or that it would terminate the life of the lamp. And so we've moved away. Our designs are fortunately of such that they will easily accommodate a screw-in light bulb. And so what we've done is just moved all designs in that direction. And then, anytime that we send out any lamp with a bulb, it's always an LED. At this point, they make more sense by a lot.
Yeah, good. Now, this next question is going to touch on the dimmability that we have already touched on. I often come across people who claim that LED lighting is not a part of healthy home design. I've not found any conclusive studies around LED lighting and health. However, I know that color temperature may affect melatonin production, also that dimmers and wireless technology that some green professionals claim produce electromagnetic fields. Do y'all have any commentary on this?
Well, you know, we recently encountered some testing of this fixture right here in front of you on the slide right now, that when the suspension cords it passed with flying colors, but there is a new requirement that is not yet a mandated requirement, but that is a recommendation that may soon become a mandated requirement, and that is FCC testing because of the interference possibly within the hospitality industry, you know, with cell phones and computer equipment and things like that. It is not a requirement at this point, but it is, you know, a recommendation. So, you know, with this new launch, that the multi-drop series that just launched this season, we are going to incorporate the filters required. So it doesn't interfere, if that's what they mean. Again, I'm kind of guessing there. I'm not 100% sure that's what they were asking.
Yeah. And Randall, do your clients express concern about electromagnetic fields?
Oh, I'm from California. They express concern about everything.
Yeah. Even in Kansas, right, Shay?
Oh, all the time.
So I mean, there was much more contention about what fluorescents did and creating those disturbances and people getting headaches from them, and you sort of seeing the flutter at the corner of your eye. And there are an incremental number of people that are affected by LED lights as well, because they do cycle, just like fluorescents do. And so that is a concern, and if it is something that's happening to you, then there's not anything that we can do to ameliorate it. You probably go to incandescent lighting if that's the case. It's interesting, if you guys have ever taken a video of your fixtures that have LED bulbs in it and you see it kind of flutters in the video screen, well, that's the cycling that you're actually seeing physically recorded on your camera video, which is interesting to me. So that it is a concern. It's something that the industry is looking at, but it is not a concern to a majority of the population.
Yeah. I don't know whether this would come up with for y'all that are manufacturing, but how do you deal with various lamps of the same color temperature not appearing to be the same color? Do you have any tips for ensuring that lighting across an interior design project is uniform? That is a design question, so I think that goes to you, Randall.
Well, I think that comes down to CRI. They're not looking at the color rendering index, because you can have a 2700 degree Kelvin lamp that has different CRIs. And that's that little hidden ingredient that makes, so you want to make sure that all your bulbs have not only the same color temperature, but also the same color rendering index. I pretty much advocate that you find a manufacturer of light bulbs that you like and use that, because then their color temperatures, their CRIs are going to stay consistent.
Okay, good. Well, that brings us to a question for Shay specifically. What kind of LED bulb do you use on your lamps, and to what extent does it give you lighting in all directions? I ask because some LED bulbs provide lighting in only side or upwards direction.
So
that's the answer. Yeah.
So one of the big advantages of our lamps is because it is a screw-in socket. The end consumer can choose whatever type of bulb it is that they're going to prefer for whatever application they're using that lamp for. So there are LEDs of all different types of color temperatures, as Randall has mentioned, and there's not any specific requirement for our lamps in that regard. So we generally recommend starting with nothing higher than 2700 Kelvin in terms of color temperature to give you a warmer light. But from there, it really becomes personal preference, and we really recommend that the consumer, the person using the lamp, identifies the type of bulb that is going to work best for what they're looking for.
Good. Next question again is for Randall. Can Randall please run through the lumen output and temperature that he recommends for various types of lighting, general overhead ambient fixtures, desk or work lamps, under cabinet kitchen lighting, task lighting, etc.? That would be helpful. And Pam, maybe you will have something to add, given your experience too. But do tell, Randall.
All right. That's a lot in one question.
I know it is, and some of it we've sort of touched on.
Yeah.
But what you might add here is for, like, if you're going to be sitting at your desk, or if you're going to be in your kitchen chopping vegetables, is there something that you would recommend?
Sure. Under cabinet lighting, I would recommend that you're getting 1100 lumens out of that. In your mind, you can think 75 watts. So, and what I like about the linear lights is that they are dimmable. You can also get them in technology called warm dim, which means that as you dim it down, the light becomes warmer and warmer in color, like we're used to with incandescent. And they do make that in screw-in light bulbs as well that work with regular dimmers, so that if you want that glow from your decorative fixtures, you can use the warm dim technology either as a screw-in, or ordering a fixture that has that, if it's an integrated LED component, into those decorative fixtures. For decorative lighting, table lamps, I really like something in the, let's say the 450 to 800 lumen range. That's 40 watts to 60 watts equivalent. I'll use those just so people can get that idea, is you want those fixtures to have a glow to them. You don't want them to visually overpower the space. These would be dimmable. They do make three-way bulbs, so that as you click it, you can get 25 watts, 50 watts, 100 watts worth of light out of them, even though it's an LED that's only using a fraction of that wattage that's there. The recessed fixtures, we use a lot of LED MR16s. That means multi-mirror reflector. They're little baby reflector bulbs. It used to be that you could only get those in low voltage, so you had to have a transformer per fixture. Now they make them in line voltage, 120 volt, so you can use a very inexpensive, reasonable recessed fixture that has a gimbal ring, which means it's adjustable, and use one of these MR16s that gives you basically 50 watts worth of light for 11 watts worth of power. And it has all of that flexibility, again, dimmable. So hopefully, the last thing would be at the mirror. Now in the master bedroom, if you're doing vanity lights on either side, which is the best, that's cross illumination. At least in the master bedroom, I would like to have 1100 lumens on either side. That's 75 watts, 100 watts. Because in the morning, you know, you really need to have a reality check of how you look, and you're shaving, applying makeup, spackling. You need a lot of light for that. If it's the powder room that guests use when they come over, it only needs somewhere between 450 and 800 lumens, which is between 40 watts and 60 watts. They're just going in to see that there's no spinach on their teeth. They're not going to come over to your house and shave unless they're really comfortable with you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good. That's great.
I think Randall really covered it there. The only piece of advice that I would add, because I tend to glaze over in the hardware aisle, because the aisles are so full now of LED options where they used to be so tiny. So, don't trust when it says warm white.
Right.
You know, really, because I've brought home warm white after glazing over, and it's really been quite cool. So, you know, Randall, like looking at that CRI, looking at that lumens, and really just make a list for yourself, because you will glaze over, and you need
will.
to.
And the information is on the box, but you have to know what you're looking for. So it's 27 degrees, 2700 degrees Kelvin or lower is what I would recommend. CRI of 90 or higher, and then depending on the amount of light that you want out of it. And I just tell people that if you usually went out and bought a 60-watt bulb, that's 800 lumens. So if you look on the box and it's less than that, then you know it's going to be less than the amount of light that you got out of a 60-watt bulb. And if it's more than that, then it's going to be more light. And you'll get it. You'll get it down the road. But I always just keep 60 watts is 800 lumens. And then I just work my way forward or backward from there, depending on how much light I want.
The side of the light bulb packaging anymore looks like a nutrition label for food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most places will have light bulbs on display because we're still getting used to LED technology. So take the time to look at that display, find the bulb, read the packaging for that bulb, and then use that as reference for the rest of the bulbs there that are options for you.
People have personal preferences. In equatorial countries, the go-to color temperature is between 5,000 and 6,500 degrees Kelvin. That is a blue-white light. But you have to think that these are areas where it is so hot that you don't want a yellow light there. You want cooler feeling light. So the illusion is that the room is cooler because the light is cooler. So it really depends on the environment that you're going into. But I do like a warm light, I must say.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. Yeah. Y'all, we are about out of time. And so this has been a great discussion. Thank you very much. People are making appreciative noises in the comments. Our audience appreciates what you've been sharing, and our audience is eager to buy your book when it comes out, Randall. So we will make sure that when it comes out that we at SFC let that be known to our reach. But do tell. Do you want to?
We don't have anything set up yet. It's through Rutledge. We'll start advertising on Instagram, Facebook, through Furniture, Lighting, and Design magazine, through the different professional organizations as soon as it's ready. I'm excited about it because the last book I wrote was 6 years ago, and LEDs were just in their infancy. Now they are the industry. And so it's so important for people to get comfortable with it.
Yes. Good. Y'all, thank you so much for all the comfort your bright lights bring to homes around the world, and for all that y'all provide to our organization and in our industry. Each of your companies shows such leadership in your area, and I just really, really appreciate that. So thank you for being who you are, for having the jobs that you do so well. And I hope you have a very, very happy holiday season.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. Such a pleasure. So we will have more good conversation in the new year, and happy holidays in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Same to you, and same to everybody out there.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.